Perhaps, like me, you're old enough to recall the days before computers, when we had to type letters on a typewriter or even write them out longhand. In those days, ages ago, we would often reach the end of the letter and realize that we had neglected something in the text that needed to be added. Of course, there's no way to insert this new text, and so to add this extra bit, we'd have to write a PS, which stands for postscript. My mother-in-law, she was famous for her postscripts. She would often finish a letter to us and then forget to put it in the mail. And by the time she realized that she hadn't yet mailed her letter, something new would happen. And so she'd add a PS. And then something else new would happen and she'd add a PPS. And then something else would happen and she'd add a PPPS, and so on. Sometimes we would receive a letter with 5 or more postscripts, all in different colors of ink, often snaking around the outside margins of the paper. More than once, she had so many postscripts that she'd just give up and write the letter again. Well, today we're examining the postscript of the Apostle Paul's letter to the Philippians. He had already penned his final thoughts. In 4:8 we read, "Finally, brothers and sisters," and then whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Yet we notice that after this finally, the Philippians go on for 12 more verses. There's an important thing that Paul has to say. You see, the whole purpose for his letter to the Philippians, that letter was prompted because of a gift that the Philippians had sent him, and he wanted to write them a thank you card. Well, he had neglected to thank them. However, this is not your typical thank you. Like so many of his experiences, Paul takes this opportunity to turn his gratitude into an important lesson. While Paul rejoices that his friends have acted on his behalf, he wants to make it very clear that God would have met his needs even if they had not acted. Paul is so confident in this fact that he declares in the words of the Message Bible, "Actually, I don't have a sense of needing anything personally." This is a remarkable statement. Remember, Paul is a prisoner for the gospel. It is doubtless that he has real material needs. Yet Paul also has complete trust in God for those needs. His reliance is not on his friends, but on Jehovah Jireh, God, my provider. This name for God comes from Genesis chapter 22. God tells Abraham, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go up to the mountain of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain I will show you." Abraham obeys. He builds an altar. He takes Isaac and he binds him, lays him on top of the wood, and he reaches for his knife. And at that moment, an angel of the Lord calls out to him, "Don't lay a hand on the boy. Don't do anything to him." Abraham looks up and he sees a ram caught in the thicket, which he sacrifices instead of Isaac. We read in Genesis 22:14, "So Abraham called that place Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide." There's nothing complicated in this lesson. Whatever God asks of us, God will provide for us. The difficulty is not comprehending. The difficulty is believing. Because it's one thing to say, "Oh, God will meet all my needs," that God is my provider, but it's quite another to stand unwaveringly in the belief and to know without a doubt that everything I have comes from God, that he is my provider, he is my sustainer. Whatever he asks, he also bears the responsibility of providing. And herein lies the heart of contentment. When we know that God is going to be there for us, when we know that God will provide for us, we can rest in whatever circumstances in which we find ourselves. Unfortunately for most people, contentment is not knowing that God will meet our needs. It is having those needs already met. Google defines contentment as a state of peaceful satisfaction, of inner peace with your current situation. We think of contentment as having enough money in the bank, a good job that we enjoy, a family that loves us, a comfortable bed, and so on. According to the world, contentment is as serene as this park behind me, although it's a little windy today. It's sitting back on a park bench without a care in the world. Most people think contentment is having it all. Contentment is not needing anything more. But that wasn't the situation for Paul. And it was certainly not the situation for the Philippian believers. They had real need. If you visit the ruins of Philippi today, you can see the ancient prison in which Paul and Silas were possibly kept when they first visited the city after they had been stripped and beaten with rods. The reality for many of the believers of the first century was a near constant danger, including death, job loss, physical punishment. Nearly every early church leader was martyred for their faith, including the apostles. It is in this context that Paul proclaims, I have learned the secret of being content in every situation. And the secret of Paul's contentment was that it didn't rely on his current circumstances, but rather on the all-sufficiency of God. And this brings us to one of the most well-known verses in the entire Bible, Philippians 4:13. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. This verse is often taken out of context and used to portray God as a sort of magical cosmic genie. Whenever we have overextended ourselves, we might say, oh, I put too much on myself, but I can do all things. When our favorite team is losing in the championship game, we'll go, oh, come on, guys, you can do all things. When we want to lose a little extra weight, we'll go, oh, God, I can do all things. Not only is this a misuse of Scripture, but it's also a misunderstanding of God's nature and purpose. You see, God isn't a genie who makes all of our wishes come true. God is a divine mover who is redeeming the whole of his creation according to his will. In short, God is not in the business of making my dreams come true. God is in the business of bending my ambitions to match his perfect will. We are relying on God's strength to accomplish God's mission. Perhaps there are a few who are listening to this who already see the implication of Paul's message. This all-important postscript to his letter. If our cares seem to outweigh our blessings, if we find ourselves with an endless list of unfulfilled needs and desires, if we're dissatisfied with everything, and we keep praying for strength while feeling really weak, there's never a problem with God's power. Our God, Jehovah Jireh, has promised to provide. We serve an omnipotent God who can do, in the words of Ephesians, 3:20, immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine according to his power that is at work in us. The problem is never God's problem. The problem is our failure to align ourselves with God's desires, our failure to align ourselves with God's perfect plan, our failure to trust in him, our failure to rely on his provision every day. And so my encouragement to you as I close this service today, as I close this message today, my encouragement to you is from song number 568 in our songbook. All that I am, all I can be, all that I have, all that is me, accept and use, Lord, as you would choose, Lord, right now, today. Take my every passion, every skill, take all my dreams and bend them to your will. My all I give, for you I'll live, come what may. May that be our prayer today. God bless you.